Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Annick Cros. I am the science lead for the Reef Resilience Network, and I'm your host today for today's webinar. This is the second and final webinar for the Management Effectiveness for Marine Protected Area Mentored online course. And I'm really excited to be hosting today, and congratulations to everybody who made it this far. This mentored course is hosted by the Reef Resilience Network and NOAA's Coral Reef Conservation Program with guidance and participation from experts, some of whom you'll be hearing from today. Next slide. For those of you who may not be familiar with the network, we are a partnership effort spearheaded by the Nature Conservancy to help marine managers and practitioners around the world effectively manage, protect, and restore critical marine habitats. This year marks the 20th year anniversary of the network. And so we want to celebrate our network members and say thank you so much for all the work you do day in and day out to help protect the coral reefs. We know that there aren't enough marine protected areas, about 8%, with even fewer, sorry. Sorry. And so we know there's not enough marine protected areas with even fewer that have been assessed as effective. And the people who are responsible for management of MPAs are often under-resourced and overtasked. And so to effectively manage these MPAs, we not only need protected area, but we also invest in the quality of their management and the capacity of the people who are managing them. And this is exactly what the network is doing, where we try to strengthen the capacity of marine managers by synthesizing and sharing the latest science and strategies, which you can find on our website, reefresilience.org. We connect managers globally. We have over 9,000 active members, and we provide trainings and expert mentorship, such as this course. And we've trained over 55,000 people over the last 20 years. So now I'm going to hand over things to Meghan, who's going to talk more about this webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Annick, and hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. So in this webinar, we're going to be exploring how MPA management effectiveness assessments can support adaptive management and introduce ideas that are going to be covered in more detail in lesson 5 of the course. So you're going to learn how these assessments strengthen communication about management and inform decision making. Our presenters are going to share 2 different examples. One is around Evica, which is a tool that's used across Indonesia's MPA network to help identify gaps and trends for different levels of government. And then the second is an approach from YAP in Micronesia that combined the global MET4 assessment tool with additional methods to review management effectiveness and update a site management plan. So in both of these cases, assessment results really help to guide efforts to improve management, either by helping governments address key gaps or by supporting community discussions and identifying priorities. So in lesson 5, it's going to go into more detail about these types of assessments, but this session will really show how if the assessments are well done, they can really meaningfully support better decision making. So the presentations today will be followed by an open question and answer session, and the whole webinar will be an hour. Next slide, please. So let's meet our presenters today. Our 2 presenters that are going to share their experience. The first is Dr. Hesti Widodo. She's the Senior Marine Technical Consultant for the Coral Triangle Center. She's got more than 15 years of experience in marine protected area management effectiveness, including developing Indonesia's national evaluation framework and supporting assessment tools. She's led field projects to establish MPAs in multiple island groups and directed social marketing campaigns. And as part of Indonesia's evaluator team and expert group, she's designed training curriculum across the Coral Triangle and helped develop national competency standards for MPA outreach, tourism, and monitoring. She's experienced in multiple management effectiveness frameworks, and she's currently a Pew Marine Fellow, where she's looking at creating an effectiveness framework that can be used for local and customary communities in potential marine OECMs in Indonesia. And then our second presenter is representing the YAP assessment team today, and I'll introduce other team members later on. Debra works in conservation and climate resilience with experience coordinating state level environmental projects in the Federated States of Micronesia. She currently serves as a stakeholder engagement officer for the Jeff 7 FSM Land Degradation Neutrality Project and previously spent more than 6 years as the project coordinator for Jeff 5 FSM Ridge to Reef project, where she supported integrated watershed and coastal management. And most recently, she is one of the co-founders of a new island resource conservancy of WAB, an organization that's dedicated to strengthening community resilience in YAP by bridging environmental stewardship with traditional knowledge to improve local livelihoods. Okay, so let's get into the what we're here for, the presentations. We're going to first hear from Hesti on Indonesia's framework for evaluating management effectiveness of MPAs. So I'm going to hand it over to Hesti. Take it away.
Thank you, Meghan. Hello, everyone. Good day, good evening, good morning. I'm Hesti Widodo, and today I would like to share about the experience working on framework for evaluating management effectiveness of marine protected areas in Indonesia. I will start with the next one, please. I will start with this map. And Indonesia has already targeted to achieve 30% protection of marine area by 2045. And we're looking this as with the three themes as MPA for biodiversity, MPA for blue carbon, and MPA for small-scale fisheries. And this is really signify the effort of the government of Indonesia. But also on the other side, we will need to make sure that this MPA is managed effectively to provide the conservation outcomes. Next, please. And before we go into detail on Africa, because Africa is very strongly related to the governance of MPA Indonesia, Indonesia natural resources management is managed fully by the government, whether it's central government or the provincial government. At the central government, there are three major ministers that really taking charge of the marine resources management. The first one, Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries, and this is the one that's really now taking charge of the marine aquatic ecosystem management. And also Ministry of Forestry previously managed a few of marine protected area. And also the provincial government, which is the biggest chunk of numbers of MPAs currently established at the provincial level. And for the provincial government, they are reported to the Ministry of Home Affairs. Next one, please. And to know better about this management structure, this is what happened. The MPA management unit is actually working on a site level. They have a team, they have head of MPA management unit, and they need to report everything to the head of marine fisheries at the provincial level. And for the head of marine fisheries provincial level, they are reporting to the governor. Governor reported to Ministry of Home Affairs. But in terms of technical MPA management content or technical activities, it is related to Ministry of Marine Affairs. So there are actually a way of tweaking and we're working together at different kind of government level to make sure the MPA management running at the site level. Next one, please. And we go into Africa now. This is a tool, as Meghan mentioned, this is a tool for measuring MPA management effectiveness in Indonesia. It's called EFICA, it's abbreviation of Evaluasi Efektivitas Pengelolaan Kawasan Konservasi. And this is a legal management effectiveness tool associated with the degree of Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries. It runs annually and it conducted by a team assigned evaluators, and they have to be officiated with a decree. And the evaluation process of EFICA involves stakeholders consultation, document verification, and field observation to check whether whatever reported in the document is actually happened on the ground. Next one, please. And to see this, Africa has some similarities with other effectiveness tools, as mentioned, will be for the next session of the for the tools. But this is only to show that Africa relate also with the certification process at the global standard with the green list. Next one. And Africa itself has already been run for 4 years, consecutive 4 years. And Africa has three type of tiers. If the overall score of Africa below 50%, it is minimally managed. It is between 50 to 85%, it's optimally managed. And it is above 85%, it will be sustainably managed. And over 4 years of Africa implementation, we can see there is an improvement here. In 2021 to 20 until 2023, we can only see few MPA achieve the sustainable managed stage, and we have more in 2024. Next one, please. And also, this is when actually EFICA start to implemented by the government. There are key steps in MPA establishment in Indonesia: the initiation process, the proposal process, enactment process. This is the legal official process to be recognized as MPA. And 1 year after it is enacted, EFICA evaluation will be start running and will be repeated every 1 year when it is reaching the management stage. Next one. And this is the step by step how to do the EFICA implementation. As I mentioned, there is evaluator training, evaluator assessed, and they have to have a degree to be evaluated. And all evaluator will go into the training, and Coral Triangle Center has been developing the curriculum and modules, also the technical implementation for FICA jointly with the Ministry of Marine Affairs. And the next stage, usually on the site level, in the site level, they will be collecting evidence, all the process that they're doing. And when the day happened, when evaluation and stakeholder consultation occurred, participants attending this is not only the evaluator and MPA management unit, but also there's representative of central government, there's MPA provincial government, community representatives, and other partners involving in day-to-day MPA management. When we have the final score and verified score of the EFICA, information will be publicly available at the Ministry of Marine Affairs website. And people all over the world can also see this one at sidaco.kkp.co.id. This is the website address. And this information of EFICA will go into some recommendation to subnational level for follow-up. Next one. And this is a key component of the EFICA. What is actually questioned in EFICA? There are input, process, output, and outcome criteria used in EFICA. For input, this is mainly asking about the status of the area, whether the zoning plan designed well and is connected with other MPA, whether the management plan has already mentioned the conservation target and integratedly designed, and whether the MPA has enough adequate people working in MPA and also having good capacity, whether the budget available and whether infrastructure and facilities available on the ground. And in terms of the process, this is question about whether their standard operating procedures are available for day-to-day management, whether the surveillance are running well every month or in a routine way and covering all the area of the MPA. And then there's also component asking outreach, whether they reaching the community and engaging in their conservation activities, and also whether they are the MPA management unit are good in terms of maintaining good partnership. Resource monitoring is also key. this is the thing that measured in the process component, and also kind of like surface providing permit and also handling the permit is also another responsibility of the MP management unit, including community empowerment. On the output criteria, this is a question about whether the MP management unit and also the management authority are able to control good utilization, whether they are available or they're good in terms of reducing the threats or improving the compliance and improving also awareness knowledge of the surrounding area of the MPA management, and whether the community development has already reached the status that can support the day-to-day livelihood of the community. And also on the output component, this is about transparency, about information available, whether it is available for public to know about the status of the area. And the ultimate part is actually the outcome. This is the hardest part to measure because this is also showing the result of the MPA management day to day, but also on the outcome component, whether they are able to conserve or protect the conservation target, and whether the core zone showing better result as expected from the beginning, and whether the beneficiaries, the community, get the maximum optimum benefit from the MPA operation. Next one. And for the Effica, it is actually showed up in the spider web. The spider web will be easily shown and read by everyone basically to see like what is actually improved. And for the Effica, they always like 2 years information. If the previous year, like for example, this one we're using 2023 and 2024, you can see directly from the process part. For example, there's actually improvement in terms of their outreach. In 2023, outreach activity is not yet achieved the optimum score. But then in 2024, they improve it to conduct more outreach to the community, but also having good strategy for engaging community. Also in the output and outcome, you can see there's the different in a chart showing there's improvement. And from the score on the below part, we can see the highest number that the score is actually on the process. This related provide information that management MPA management unit at the site level has already reached the maximum optimum activities they can conduct in the field. Next one, please. So then how is actually follow up after that? From the spider web, there's actually we can see number of item that repeatedly not change or not improve. But then the Effica evaluator provided also recommendation. That recommendation come into the action follow up action. There's on a in this table on the right hand, you can see, for example, in the input component, there's always like limited challenge, limited budget, limited staff, or the infrastructure is not adequate enough, or out of date MPA management plan. What happened after the Effica evaluation the first time and during now is actually the MPA management unit working the provincial government to design a new structure that allowing for sustainable financing for this MPA. Even they upgraded the MPA management plan, and also they work with the national government, Ministry of Home Affairs and Ministry of Marine Affairs to develop mechanism for sustainable mechanism for the MPA. And for example, we can also from the output component in the previously low-level community engagement and capacity to reduce threat, the MP management unit right away making an action for adaptive management. They work with provincial government and shared information on how to do the livelihood, community livelihood, engaging with other department divisions at the provincial level. Sorry. Next one, please. And this is the result of minimally managed MPA. This is the MPA showing still there's still lots of improvement needed. From the final score 49.28%, we know this is still minimally managed. And we can see from these four criterias, majority of the score is not yet reaching the maximum, and then they need extra help, especially in terms of the output and outcome. And from the spider web, we can see also there's in the outcome component in 2024, there is no information yet. And it shows that they're not doing the data collection or measuring this outcome component. But for the output, they made some improvement in terms of helping reducing threat. They improve also community knowledge about the area, and also they're trying best to improve compliance level. Next one, please. And what is the follow-up for those condition of the MPA management effectiveness with the minimal level? The the government, this is actually one of the example of MPA with limited support, and there's no NGO support also in this area. That's why the management unit work closely with the provincial government to make sure that they have additional allocated budget as a follow-up action. And they also reported to the central government to make sure there's budget allocation and additional staff requirement for the MPA. Another interesting part is actually for the process. In the beginning, they have limited management standard operating procedures, but then they know that they previously didn't know what kind of SOPs they have to make, and then they start to complete their SOPs in the following year. This is also the same for the MPA management plan. Some of the MPA management plan are not updated. That's why they can do it by themselves. MPA management unit working with their team to develop them, upgrading the MPA management plan. For the outcome, some of the work need to have push and help from other minister. This is has also another recommendation provided by the Africa evaluator and become national strategy. And also currently there's a guidelines how the MP at the provincial level can improve their management effectiveness. Next one, please. The lessons. From this process of doing the FICA, we learned together that the a comprehensive management plan from the beginning, that including setting conservation target, is key for the day-to-day operation of the MPA management. And documentation process for the MPA planning and even management is key for informing decision and also helping the evaluation and verification process. And we also found out that from this process, MPA management unit capacity leadership are crucial to bring up speed the enhancement of the MPA. Then another thing from this process, the government of Indonesia making a joint like national strategy for improving management effectiveness of MPA. Then that's next one, please. Thank you. I think. Thank you. Let's join us in the webinar and with Bahasa Indonesia for learning more about Efika.
Thank you so much, Hesti. So interesting, all the work you guys are doing around this. So thank you for sharing. Anyone, please jump in with the Q&A just to put your questions for Hesti, and we'll be getting to those after the next presentation. So don't hesitate to throw them into that Q&A box now. Otherwise, we're going to move on, and I'm just going to give a little bit of an intro to the YAP team and their process. So in 2024, the Pacific Islands Managed and Protected Area Community, PIMPAC, piloted an online training on protected area management effectiveness in Micronesia that much of this course is based on. So small teams from across the region participated and used the training to review and assess management effectiveness in a local protected area and to apply what they learned in updating management plans. So the training included 5 modules that covered key components of management effectiveness, very similar to what we're reviewing in this course. And then between the sessions, the teams completed worksheets that helped them reflect on the management effectiveness in their sites and to identify gaps. And it also included them going through a MET4 assessment that they completed as they moved through the modules. So the questions they answered in the MET aligned to each module's content, and they could apply understanding of best practices when they answered those MET4 questions. So the YAP team is here today to share their experience completing the training and assessing effectiveness for the RAY MPA and supporting the community there and updating their management plan to using that information. So I have already introduced Debra earlier, who's presenting on behalf of the team, but joining her to help answer any follow-up questions are her fellow co-founders of the Island Resource Conservancy of WAB, Natasha, Gorong, and Tazmin Falan. Natasha is an environmental practitioner specializing in land management planning, community engagement, and sustainable resource governance across Micronesia. And Tazmin is a marine resource coordinator with expertise in stakeholder engagement across government, community, and traditional leadership networks. And Anthony Laan is the Marine Division Manager for YAP State Department of Resource and Development. And he is dedicated to integrating scientific approaches with local customs to strengthen sustainable marine management. So this team was the ones that went through this process, and I'm going to hand it over to Debra to talk more about it. Over to you, Debra and team.
Thank you, Megan, for the introduction. And like Megan said, I present my cohort that took the PIMPAC Adaptive Management course last year, representing our island of YAP, Micronesia. And before I talk about the process, I'd like to briefly give a background of where YAP is, its government structure, and how we manage our natural resources. Next slide, please. So YAP State is one of 4 island groupings that make up the nation of the Federated States of Micronesia, or FSM for short. The FSM is located in the Western Pacific Ocean, and YAP is the westernmost island state. YAP is unique with its 4th branch of government, the traditional councils that are composed of traditional chiefs from their own communities. So in YAP, the word community entails a unique structure of clans, estates, or ethnic groups that intertwines to form traditional tenureship that guides both terrestrial and marine management of resources. Because of this unique setup, all natural resources are privately owned and all the conservation and management efforts are community-led. Next slide, please. The selected community site that went through the adaptive management planning process with us was originally called Ray Marine Conservation Area. This site is a joint effort between 2 communities of Mulai and Tibet. Over the years, these communities observed a decline in their community's traditional fishing grounds, which led to the establishment of the Marine Conservation Area in 2016. These 2 communities are located on YAP's main island on the southern western side of the island. These 2 villages sit adjacent to each other. The core group, or the site management team, is composed of representatives from both communities. It includes 7 members, 2 presidents, 2 vice presidents, 1 treasurer, and 2 secretaries, which are community providing one, with each community providing 1 representative for every position. A member from one community may serve as a proxy for the other when needed, and for official documents, they decide whose signature will appear or whichever authorized member is present may sign. The core group also ensures representation across key demographic groups, so they have representatives from the men's group, women's group, and youth groups, to maintain a balanced and equitable participation. So this structure was intentionally designed to ensure equal representative from both communities. Next slide, please. So there are 7 of us that participated in the course that made up the YAP cohort, with 4 representatives from the YAP resource team, with representatives from state government and the different non-governmental organizations, as well as 3 members from the community core group from the selected conservation site. The timing of this course was ideal as the management plan for the Ray Marine Conservation Area had expired in 2021. The community focal point was set up by the Nature Conservancy for this opportunity and leading to appointing 3 of their core group members to participate in the course training and go through the adaptive management process. Next slide, please. So like Meghan mentioned earlier, this is a 3-month course began in January through March, covering 5 modules in classroom sessions. And in addition to the classroom sessions, we were also doing some homework sessions. And one of the first homework assignment that we did was assessing the site, utilizing the Med4 tool. And we find this tool to be, this updated version of the tool, to be helpful as it combines previous evaluation tools into one central assessment tool that not only supports the assessment of the community sites management effectiveness, but it also feeds into our regional Micronesia challenge goals of managing our protected areas, making it easier to monitor and track progress toward the regional conservation goals. Another thing that we find helpful with this tool was the explanation provided under each question, and it helps provide the same interpretation of the questions. Along with utilizing the tool, we were also filling out module worksheets and populating a management plan component template that was provided as part of the course materials. And we were populating that template based on the information from the MED and the module worksheets and the outcomes of the old management plan. And again, we find these templates useful and simple to fill out, and it offers a good visual, especially for our communities. And all this information compiled, we then incorporate those into the updated plan. Next slide, please. So after completing the course, we started the team started pre-planning sessions by reviewing the old management plan, verifying information from the homework sessions against the old management plan, and then started developing goals and SMART objectives for the new plan. And at this time, the community had expressed their interest in doing a holistic plan, not just to focus on their marine area, but to also include the terrestrial resources into the plan. So then we started the planning with this holistic concept in mind. Next slide, please. And we then started planning how to effectively engage the community by we started scheduling community sessions, and with the schedule, we based that on community's convenience to allow for a full community participation. We're targeting to have the men, women, and youth groups come into one setting and conduct the sessions with them so we can fully capture their feedback and input. And we don't want to we don't want to overwhelm this community with a lot of sessions. So we just did 3 community sessions with them. We shared back the results of the MET and the recommended actions to improve their management, as well as the information we compiled during the pre-planning sessions for their validation and feedback. And through these community engagements, it's the core group, the community core group that are leading the facilitations, with each core group member assigned to a group when we go out into group breakout sessions, with the resource team supporting in the back. Next slide, please. So then after completing the community sessions, the team, the core group and the resource team reconvened and start putting together the 5-year plan for the community, to start drafting the new plan. And with that, we were developing a 5-year work plan, and the community then prioritized activities to be implemented in the first year with funding available from MCT or Micronesia Conservation Trust, so to support those activities, implementation of those activities in year 1. And this is one thing that really motivated the community to go through the planning process and updating their plan knowing that at the end of the process, they have funding available to support their activities. Next slide, please. So just very quickly, we did a course from January to March, and then start the planning and drafting from March to September. And finally, the community endorsed their new plan, which is called the Ray Resources Management, on September 22 of 2024. Next slide, please. So just a few things to highlight that stood out to us during the process was the utilization of the Med4 tool, the updated version, the management plan component template that was provided, the community-led facilitators. This enabled them to have ownership of the plan and their resources, as well as building capacity. And another thing that we saw was the community participants were fully engaged as they relate to the facilitators, as opposed to an outsider from the government or another organization coming in and facilitate the sessions. And then youth engagement and participation. The youth are very active and creative and skilled in using modern technology. So they are now raising awareness of their the work that they're doing through social media. They've created an Facebook page, and they're also looking into using other social network platforms to raise more awareness. And lastly, with the community wanting to do a holistic plan, applying the risk to reef approach. So they now have more knowledge in understanding whatever actions they're doing on land will have an impact to their marine ecosystem. Next slide, please. So some lessons learned from the community. With their old plan, they've listed some awareness activities, but not a lot were done. So with this time around, which posed some challenges and issues. So then with this time around, they looking at raising more awareness, expanding out to neighboring communities, and also to a wider audience. And another thing, when we were running the METs, they were not able to track the management effectiveness of some species, the marine species. So with this new plan, they identified measurable indicators to track management effectiveness. Example, identifying key fish species and other marine species to manage and protect and track their management effectiveness. Thank you. That's all for the team.
Thank you so much, Debra and team. Really appreciate it. And it's so nice to hear a direct example of how all the assessment discussions and work really informed the management plan development and decision making. So appreciate that. So we are going to jump into Q&A in a minute. I have one more slide that I'm going to present before we go there, but please enter any other questions into the Q&A. But before we do that, we wanted to also share this image from the MPA guide, which many of you may be familiar with or may have used or heard about. But there's a lot of text on this slide. I realize that, so don't feel like you need to read the details. We just kind of wanted to provide this as an overview slide. The main message is that there's many types of assessments out there, and each is designed for different purposes, which can sometimes get confusing. Like, what am I supposed to use? So, for example, IUCN provides categories that sites select based on their intended outcome. So, many sites are asked to choose what category they fall into, and that's really just a simple task of saying, this is what we intend, the purpose of our site is, and you choose a category. So it's a quick choice. The MPA guide kind of goes a step further, and it's a type of assessment, but it focuses on what are the expected outcomes using two specific criteria. And those criteria are the stage of establishment and the level of protection. And when you look at those together, you can quickly understand the kinds of biodiversity outcomes the site can realistically achieve. So that's another very quick assessment, and it just looks at those two things to give you a good understanding quickly of what the potential is for achieving biodiversity outcomes. And then there's a lot of other tools that are listed on the right here, like the ones we heard of today, all fall under this. The MET tool, Evica would fall under this side of the spectrum. The green list, how's your MPA doing? These are all assessments that assess actual outcomes, like what's really happening at the site, and they examine multiple components of effective management, many of which we're reviewing in this course. So these assessments on the right are really looking at what's going on in the site now, and helping you kind of understand how close the site is toward best practices. And that's again what the sites we explored today we're using. And these are the assessments that are most useful for tracking management effectiveness and informing adaptive management, because they go much deeper into what your strengths and gaps are. So we wanted to share this just to kind of find some way to show you that there are a variety of assessments out there, and it's really important to get clear about what you're trying to do with the assessment before you decide which one to use. And with that, we can move into Q&A. There was one question that came up before that I said I would answer live, but I accidentally said that. I meant to type the answer, but I actually think it's for Hesti about the webinar on December 8th. Do you have a webinar, Hesti, on December 8th?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Would you
I
mind
do.
sharing that link or if someone can share the link in the chat, maybe? Abigail had asked for the link to that webinar. So if that's possible
Sure.
to get now, that would be great.
Yeah.
If someone on your team could get
Business
that.
share.
Thank you.
Sure. We're going to put it on the chat so people can start copy paste that one.
Great. Thank you. Okay, I've got another question. I think this could go to
Megan,
either group. Yeah. Go ahead.
I just want to invite Hesti and the YAP team to turn on their camera, and Newman, if you're helping answer some questions.
Yes.
Please feel free.
Naman nasa online
Thank you.
juga. Yeah, in video niya.
Okay, our first question is, if you find a different interest from the elder inside your area, what kind of approach would you use, especially if they're a good influence? So I hope that that's clear. I think it's if there's an elder inside the area, what kind of approach would you use to engage them? That if you think that they would be a good influence to the process. So either one or both of you can take a turn on sharing that.
Yep. Yep. Tim, do you want to start, or this is about elders? I have the
Yeah.
answer, but I think what Yap Tim will be having good more, but customary leaders, lots of customer leaders in Yap.
Yes. Yep, you want to share your thoughts?
Sure, I'll take a stab at it. My teammates can add in too. But so when we engage the community at large with the 3 sessions that we had with them, the core group members were very instrumental in inviting elders within the community, as they do have influence and they do represent the estates that have traditional authority over their waters. And so we shared with them the results of the MET assessment, and then they sort of helped validate in their observations. So we sought their input through that approach. And having them there sort of also invited and encouraged the rest of the members of the community to come in and join those sessions. Thank you. Go ahead, Hesti.
Thank you. In Indonesia, it's a little bit maybe different setting. We have customary leaders in some part of Indonesia, but not all. So basically, we have like local communities more than the customary communities. But then, in terms of this EFICA evaluation, because as I mentioned also in Natural Resources Management in Indonesia, it is led by the government and managed the full authority within the government. So this is usually part of the MPA management unit will from the beginning they understand the stakeholders mapping of the area. So before that there's always like process outreach engagement also part of the strategy should be developed. So for the MPA management unit to run that outreach activity is also another way for them to work with the communities. And during that EFICA assessment, there's an encouragement to bring together the stakeholder representative in a discussion to assess the EFICA, and this is the chance for people also to give like comment, opinion, or ideas. If it is like if there's the disputes or the different opinion offer something, usually during that there's a chance for management unit and the stakeholders and also the evaluator to come together and talk about the things. So whether it is called assessment time, but it's also serve as a discussion or medium for talking with different stakeholders to bring upon the understanding on something.
Thank you so much, Hesti. Anything else on the topic about elders anyone wants to share? All right. I think then we have a question. Someone, Lila has her hand up. So if you would like to ask your question, Lila, you can come off mute.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
About this course because we're
Henry. Okay, perfect. Yes.
You're on mute now, Lila. Something happened. If you could
Can you
start
hear me?
over. Now we can.
Yes.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good. Did you hear the beginning part? Or should I start over?
No.
Oh,
Yeah, we
okay.
didn't hear any.
Okay. Okay. My name is Lila and I work at Blue Nature Alliance. I'm the lead for capacity and learning, and we're trying really hard to kind of practice and pilot what you're leading in Indonesia and YAP. It's so exciting. Thank you so much for sharing these examples. And one thing I wondered about was how did each of you in YAP and Indonesia get the leadership support to be willing to put so much time and investment in this work? And I heard you both recognize that MPA networks in your region or other nonprofits were providing a lot of support to the implementation and management on the ground. So just wanted to know more about that relationship with the folks helping with management and how you got your leadership to buy into such an incredible investment of time and resources, clearly by the work that you're sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Sama-sama. So,
You want to go, Hesti, and then we can ask the YAP team?
okay, I will start then. And I have also Nyoman here. But from the beginning of EFICA, because this is also this is key performance indicator. EFICA is related to key performance indicator of the ministry people and also the MPA management unit. So for them doing the EFICA is part of the thing that is a must because it's based on regulation. But also during that consultation period from every year, it's sort of like building commitment for those working on the ground. Having the design of EFICA evaluator is actually a combination of those people coming from different ministries and different divisions of MPA management authority. So when they're doing the assessment on the ground and meeting the MPA management unit and stakeholders, that's for them to build the connection and understanding about the resources management. So it's not only assessment, but it's like sort of like soft capacity building that inspired them to raise question, their concern, but also for them to learn over something. With the FCAB, it is because it is clear enough for them which part that they need to improve or which part that they haven't been able to improve over the time. There's also the call, and also they mentioned we need to get help from the central government. We need to get help from other division at the provincial level. That's even that understanding and willingness to raise question and also raise concern to the higher level of management authority is one thing that we found from the EFICA process, that also building the ownership of the EFICA implementation and evaluation. It is like in the beginning it's sort of like hard because it seemed like being evaluated, but the following years after this second third years, people so accustomed to Effica and they're ready with the document. It's like a good practice to do by them. And the government of Indonesia also set aside the budget for running that nationally. I think from that my side, you want to add? No. Okay.
Great, thank you. And YAP team, would you like to give a whirl at answering that question?
Yes, I'll try and tackle this question, and my teammates can help me out if anything. In regards to the question, how did we, if we understand correctly, the question was how did we get so much support from the leadership
Yes.
regarding these conservation efforts? And from our perspective, because all the resource here in YAP is community owned and managed. And so the establishment of each of our NPA sites or terrestrial sites are efforts that come from the community, and our main role is basically just to provide support in any technical or financial capacity. So it's really the communities that and their leaders that are the ones that spearhead these efforts, and whenever they need support or whenever there is an opportunity from our side, then we reach out to the community, or usually they reach out to us.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, we also have another question here for the YAP team. They said, Gonzalo says, thanks for the presentation. Just curious, the shape of the MPA, like a T going narrow from the shoreline and then widening, if you have any explanation on how they came up with that.
Yeah, again, similar to what my colleagues have already mentioned, because the resources are privately owned, when the site was first established in 2016, the community wanted to attempt and manage it by implementing a no-take zone. But a lot of the community members do rely on fishing for sustenance, subsistence, and even for cash economy. And so that was an interesting shape to sort of leave areas closer to shore where it is accessible with or without a boat for fishing, but then also closing off the sort of the light of the T. And then once it reaches the barrier reef, then they widened it out to as far as the territorial waters of each of the villages extended. So it was sort of experimental in the time, excuse me. But as we went through the adaptive management process and they went ahead and looked at it, it was still serving the community's interest, and so they kept that original T shape, but now they've included areas on land with it's also within the boundaries of each of those two villages.
And I think here Henry's showing it again.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And can I just follow up with that? Was the land part because they were finding that there were threats from land into the water or for habitat protection? What was the land component focused on?
It basically goes back to their boundaries on land. So areas where these two communities did have control over managing, and then also areas where they indicated that there were land-based activities that could if affect the marine protected area. And so a lot of it was encompassing of places where there were streams on land or taro patches where people derive their most of their local food from that eventually drains into the MPA. And so managing the land areas effectively could contribute to their success in the management area within the waters.
Great. Thank you. Okay, I think we might have time for the one last question. There's one from Dino. He says, congratulations on Evica. How did Indonesia manage to come up with a law that supports Evica? So could you talk a little bit about how you got that to get passed, to go through this process regularly and the political will to do that?
We have the government champion, actually. Those now we have the young people sitting in the position taking care of the conservation. Also, very good vision about conservation. That's why we got support for Africa process. And to make it happen and occur legally implemented in Indonesia, it should be through the legal process. I think one thing is actually having champion within the government itself that really envision about having good management effectiveness tools. That first, and then second one, there's actually a basis one that we need to have regulation to make it implemented well, and there's a base legal basis for that. And we also get support from NGO partners to help also refine the tools to make sure that it's actually based on what we need and based on regulation available in Indonesia. So we have a good combination. And we, through the process for like trialing and public consultation to make sure it's confirming all the legal basis for this EFICA indicators.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, Annick, you want to close this out?
Yeah, thanks everybody. So this concludes our second webinar for our mentored course. There will be a third webinar hosted by the Coral Triangle Center. It'll be in Bahasa on December 8th. For this webinar, you will find the recording on your week 4 tab of your mentored course in case you forgot something or you wanted to review some of what our speaker said. But mostly I want to thank our speakers for taking the time to speak today and share their experience with you. And also thank you for participating and coming on.